My name is Luciana Johnson, and I'm 29 years old. If you had asked me a year ago, I would have sworn I understood love and partnership. Two people carrying life together, supporting each other through bills, errands, daily burdens, and all the small, unglamorous routines that make up a shared home. I believed all of that, truly. But the night everything fell apart taught me a different lesson. It taught me how easily loyalty can be mistaken for servitude, how quickly a partner can start to treat you like a convenience, and how a single careless word can break something you never thought could be broken. It began on an ordinary Thursday. I had just come home from work, exhausted from back-to-back meetings and a long, hot walk from the parking lot. My mind was already juggling the list of things I needed to get done, scheduling our dentist appointments, checking the AC tune-up. Reminder, prepping meals for the next few days, confirming the rent payment, and responding to emails I hadn't been able to finish. Just the usual list, the invisible load I had carried for both of us for the past 4 years. Only today there was one task I had asked him to handle. One simple thing. That morning before leaving for work, I'd said, "Zane, can you call the landlord about the dishwasher? It's been broken for 4 days. Please handle it today." He had nodded, given a lazy salute, and told me not to worry. "Yeah, I'll call. Easy." But when I opened the front door that evening, the first thing I saw was him on the couch scrolling TikTok with the sound blasting completely absorbed. The dishwasher still sat in the corner of the kitchen, making that awful grinding noise, leaking a thin puddle of water onto the tile. Nothing had changed. Nothing had been done. I set my bag down and tried to keep my voice calm. "Zane, did you call the landlord?" He didn't look up. "Oh, crap. I forgot. I'll do it tomorrow." Tomorrow. He had said tomorrow yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. "Zane, this is the third time you've said that?" He finally paused. His video glanced at me and brushed it off with that crooked smile that used to melt me, but now only exhausted me. "Luciana, relax. You're better at talking to him anyway." That sentence landed heavier than he realized. I felt my chest tighten a little, a warning sign of a frustration I had kept buried far too long. "I'm tired of this," I murmured more to myself than to him. Tired of what he asked, annoyed that I was interrupting his scrolling. Tired of handling everything alone. I said, my voice shaking from sheer emotional fatigue. The bills, the groceries, the appointments, the cooking, the cleaning, the emergencies, the paperwork, the planning, including the things you say you'll handle, but don't. I'm tired of carrying both of our lives. He sat up defensive. "I work too. You work part-time at your friend's boutique. And yes, you bring in some money, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about basic adult responsibilities, the things that keep a home functioning, the things that keep two adults from drowning." "Wow," he scoffed. "Sorry I'm not perfect like you." My frustration boiled over. Perfect. I'm asking for effort, Zane. I'm asking for you to remember one simple task without me reminding you 3 times. He shot back, "Well, maybe if you didn't micromanage everything, I'd do more." For a moment, I genuinely couldn't speak. My breath caught in my throat. I had spent years believing if I took care of enough things, smoothed enough problems, carried enough weight, he would eventually step up. Instead, he decided that my effort proved I wanted control. My laugh came out sharp. "Micromanage, Zane. If I stop doing things, nothing happens. Nothing gets done unless I do it or remind you." He rolled his eyes. "Whatever. I don't need you anyway." That sentence didn't explode, it sliced. A clean, brutal cut straight through the quiet center of me. "You don't need me?" I asked slowly. He shrugged, dismissive. "I was fine before you. I'll be fine after you." At first I felt disbelief, then sadness, and finally clarity, an icy, calm clarity that came from somewhere deep inside me. "Well, then," I said, my voice level, "prove it." His head jerked up. "What?" "You said you don't need me. Prove it. Let's break up." I took a slow breath. "Show me how fine you'll be on your own." I saw the brief flicker of panic in his eyes, tiny, almost invisible, but pride swallowed it fast. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. "Fine. Watch me thrive without being micromanaged." The next 10 minutes felt like watching someone else's life unravel in front of me. He shoved random clothes into a bag, grabbed his charger, and walked out. No plan, no thought, just ego, just arrogance, just confidence built on the illusion that the world would function the same without me quietly holding it together. When the door closed behind him, the apartment felt shockingly quiet. I stood in the living room, breathing through the silence as though relearning how my body worked. It wasn't heartbreak yet. It wasn't anger either. It was something in between numbness mixed with clarity. My phone buzzed, a notification from Instagram. Zane had posted a black and white selfie at his best friend's apartment. Caption: new chapters, start with hard choices. Hard choices. He couldn't make a 2-minute phone call, but apparently leaving me was a hard choice. That night, I walked into the kitchen and stared at the leaking dishwasher again. The puddle on the floor glimmered under the overhead light like a small mirror reflecting back the truth I had refused to acknowledge. I had spent 4 years carrying not only my own responsibilities, but his entire life as well. I stood there, inhaled deeply, and made a decision. The next morning, I called the landlord myself. Then I called a locksmith. Zane had never signed the lease or filled out the paperwork. Every legal detail was under my name. So I changed the locks, not out of spite, but out of necessity. I boxed up his things with a calmness that surprised me, folded his shirts, packed his cologne, gathered the chargers, the gadgets, the random items he scattered everywhere. For years, I cleaned up messes he never noticed he made. When everything was taped and labeled, I sent him a single message. Your things are packed. You have 30 days to pick them up. He left it on scene. The apartment that night felt unfamiliar, but in a way that was almost comforting. Empty, yes. Too quiet, yes. But stable, balanced, mine. And beneath all the confusion and heartbreak was a deeper understanding forming inside me. If he truly believed he didn't need me, then it was finally time to see how he functioned without the invisible support I had given him for so long. I didn't know it yet, but this was the moment everything began to unravel, not for me, but for him. And his unraveling would be faster, harder, and far more dramatic than anything I could have imagined. The first few days after Zane left were strangely quiet. Not peaceful, not painful, just quiet, as if the apartment itself was trying to understand what had changed. I moved through the rooms with an odd sense of detachment, noticing how the air felt lighter without the background buzz of his constant presence. For the first time in years, I wasn't picking up after anyone. No shoes in the hallway, no jackets draped over chairs, no dirty dishes appearing without explanation. The quiet felt unfamiliar, but not unwelcome. What I didn't expect was how quickly the consequences of my silence would begin to unravel his carefully crafted illusion of independence. He didn't contact me for the first few days. Instead, he posted Instagram stories almost every hour, brunch photos, nights out with friends, gym selfies with dramatic captions like growth mode and healing begins with letting go. I didn't respond. Didn't watch. I refused to play the spectator in his performance. By day 5, the first crack appeared. It was 2 a.m. when my phone buzzed. I blinked at the screen confused until I saw the message preview Zane. My Netflix isn't working. Why'd you change the password? I stared at the message in disbelief. At 2 a.m., the man who claimed he didn't need me was asking for access to my streaming account, an account I'd always paid for. I exhaled, already exhausted. I typed back, "It's my account. You're not on it." His reply came instantly. "Just give me the new password. What's the big deal? You said you don't need me. You'll be fine without Netflix." At first, there were a few angry texts, then long paragraphs accusing me of being petty and vindictive. I didn't respond. Eventually, the messages stopped. But the quiet didn't last. The next morning, his name appeared on my screen again. "Hey, my phone got shut off. I thought you paid it." My pulse steadied. My answer was simple. "I paid my phone bill. Yours was due on the 15th. "You always handle that." "Not anymore. We broke up. You said you didn't need me." The read receipt appeared immediately. Then nothing. Around this time, his best friend, her name was Becca, started posting passive-aggressive stories too. Memes about men who can't handle independent women, and some people only support you when it benefits them. It was almost funny considering Becca had spent the last 3 years telling me privately that Zane needed to grow up and stop acting like a teenager. But now that he was living on her couch suddenly, I was the villain in her narrative. I ignored it. I had no interest in a social media war. By the end of the week, the second much bigger crack appeared. It was a Thursday afternoon when I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't pick up. When I did, I heard his voice, small, frustrated, breathless. "Luciana, Fwafri can't log into the bank account." I closed my eyes and rubbed my forehead. "Our bank account?" He hesitated. "Yeah, our account." "We don't have a joint account, Zane. That's my account. The one you used my card for." He was silent for a moment. "I need money," he said finally. "Becca's getting annoyed I'm not contributing. And that's my responsibility," how I asked, steady and calm. "Luciana, I don't get paid until next week, and the boutique only gave me 3 shifts. Please just transfer something." "No, open your own account." With what money, he snapped. My paycheck isn't enough. Then get more hours, I replied, or another job. You're unbelievable, he hissed. After 4 years, this is how you treat me. I'm not doing anything to you, I answered. I'm just not doing everything for you anymore. He hung up so hard that the click rang in my ear. But according to one of our mutual friends, the real scene happened later that afternoon when he went to the apartment building while I was at work. Because he still had the old key, he must have thought he could get inside. But after the lock change, he couldn't even open the front door. He reportedly tried multiple times, tried buzzing random neighbors, tried calling the building manager, and when the manager reminded him he wasn't on the lease and had no right to enter, he apparently had a full meltdown in the hallway shouting pacing, insisting he lived here, insisting I had no right to lock him out. The manager asked him to leave. He refused. Eventually, security escorted him off the property. I didn't learn any of this until the next day. And by then, another crisis had already surfaced. Zane didn't only forget passwords for banking apps. He forgot everything. His credit card login, his email password, his cell phone PIN, his streaming accounts, his insurance login, his budgeting app, all of it. Why? Because I had been the one who handled it all. I had been the one who reset passwords, saved codes, created spreadsheets. He had never bothered to learn any of them. The irony was brutal. The man who claimed I was convenient couldn't access his own life without me. Over the next few days, I received messages from friends he hadn't talked to in months. Hey, Zane said you changed all the passwords. Can you send him his stuff? Zane said. You're freezing him out financially. That's messed up. He said you're doing this to punish him. I responded calmly every time we are broken up. Those accounts were always mine. He needs to manage his own life now. Silence usually followed, but the pressure didn't stop there. 3 nights later, as I walked toward my car after work, the air hot and heavy from the early evening humidity, I saw him standing near my driver's side door. His shoulders slumped, his face, exhausted eyes rimmed red. He looked nothing like the man who had strutted out of our apartment with bravado. Luciana, he said, stepping forward, we need to talk. I almost turned around and walked back inside. We talked, I said. You said you didn't need me. That was pretty clear. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it then? He opened his mouth, searching for an answer, but nothing came. Instead, his eyes filled with frustration. I was angry, all right? You make everything so damn difficult. I make everything difficult, I asked quietly. Zane, I made everything possible. He flinched as if the words physically hit him. He tried again at logic, at guilt. He claimed I was abandoning him. He claimed he was falling apart because I refused to help someone I loved for 4 years. I didn't yell. I simply looked him in the eyes and said, you wanted independence. You have it. Security eventually came over and he left, but not before shouting something about how I would regret this. But I didn't regret it. Not then. Not when he tried again with emotional manipulation. Not when his friends tried to guilt me. Not when he went silent for a full day, then erupted with more angry texts. No, I didn't regret it at all. Because what I knew, and what he was only beginning to discover, was that independence isn't something you claim with a dramatic speech or an Instagram caption. It's something you live. It's something you earn. It's something you handle every day, every bill, every responsibility. And the man who said he didn't need me was now realizing he had never learned how to need himself. The cracks were widening, fast, and the fall hadn't even begun. If the first cracks in Zane's new independent life were small and easily overlooked, the next stage came like an avalanche, loud, dramatic, and impossible to ignore. I didn't have to do anything to trigger it. I didn't need to sabotage him or say anything cruel. All I did was step back. And the moment I stopped cushioning his life gravity did the rest. It started with something small, the barrage of emotional texts. After the incident at my workplace, when security had to intervene, I thought he might back off out of embarrassment. For a day or two, he did. Then the messages resumed, but this time from numbers I didn't recognize. Luciana, this is cruel. We were basically married. You owe me support. I'm having a mental health crisis because of you. You know what you're doing. You're abandoning me. The manipulation was painfully familiar, the same emotional shortcuts he had used during arguments just now amplified and desperate. I answered every message exactly the same way, without emotion. You said you don't need me. I'm respecting that. When emotional manipulation didn't work, he escalated. He showed up at my workplace again. This time he didn't wait by my car. He lingered near the entrance, pretending he had just happened to be in the area. He looked tired with uneven stubble and a gray hoodie he wore like armor against the world. But he still tried to control the narrative. Luciana, please, he said. Just hear me out. We've done this, I replied. There's nothing to talk about. You're unbelievable, he muttered, voice shaking. 4 years, Luciana. 4 years. And now you just walk away from me. You left, I reminded him. Calm, steady, no guilt. That was a stupid decision. I was emotional. And now you're emotional because of the consequences of that decision, I said. That doesn't make it my responsibility. I recognized the moment he realized guilt wouldn't work on me anymore. His expression twisted as if he didn't recognize who I had become now that I wasn't his caretaker. Security approached again. This time he left before they could escort him out, but not before saying, "You can't keep doing this. I'll make sure people know who you really are." Instead of fear, I felt something surprising relief. He was running out of ways to control me. But he had one more tactic left, bringing reinforcements. 3 days later, I was leaving work when I saw him again standing in the parking garage. But this time, he wasn't alone. Becca was beside him, arms crossed, irritation radiating from her in waves. 2 more of his friends' people, who had never once offered to help me during our entire relationship, stood behind them like a poorly assembled support group. They blocked my path as soon as I approached my car. "You need to take responsibility," Becca snapped, before I even had a chance to speak. "You can't just leave Zane like this." I stared at her, amazed at her audacity. Why? Because he's facing the consequences of things he always depended on me to do. One of the guys, someone I vaguely remembered from parties, shook his head. "You're heartless. He can't even afford his car payment right now." "That sounds like something he needs to handle," I replied. Becca scoffed. "He slept on my couch for 2 weeks, Luciana. He's struggling." "Then charge him rent," I said without hesitation. Isn't that how adulthood works? That triggered an explosion of overlapping complaints. He can't pass a credit check for a phone plan. He's overwhelmed. He's trying his best. You're being cruel. He's not built for this. And that last line was the one that stunned me. He's not built for this. That was the real problem. Not the breakup, not the bills, not the missed payments or lost passwords or unpaid tickets. He had never built the muscles of adulthood because I and everyone around him had done the heavy lifting for him. I didn't raise my voice. Instead, I pulled my phone out of my bag, opened the camera, and hit record. "Are you all harassing me at my workplace right now?" I asked. The transformation was instantaneous. Their indignation evaporated. Their moral outrage shriveled. Faces paled. They scattered like startled birds. Zane stared at the ground, jaw flexing. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," I said. "It's the only language you seem to understand." The next day, the true collapse began. Around noon, I got a frantic voicemail from a mutual friend, Tina. "Luciana, oh my God. Zane got arrested." I sat down slowly. Arrested for what? For a lot, actually. He didn't pay that speeding ticket from a few months ago. And when you don't pay those, apparently your license gets suspended. And then he drove with the suspended license, an expired registration, and no insurance. I closed my eyes. It wasn't shock I felt, it was inevitability. The kind of inevitability you feel when a rope snaps after weeks of fraying slowly. His car had been impounded, and because he had no legally valid license and no money for bail, he spent the night in jail. I didn't laugh. I didn't celebrate. There was no joy in seeing someone hit the bottom of the cliff they insisted on climbing. It was simply reality. Later that evening, I got an unexpected call from someone I never thought would reach out to me, his mother. "Luciana," she said gently, "I just wanted to apologize for everything he's been putting you through." Her voice wasn't angry. It wasn't accusatory. It was sad, tired, worn. "This isn't your fault," I told her. "No," she said quietly, "but it is ours. We've enabled him for years. We never forced him to learn anything. We thought it was kinder to do things for him. Now he's paying for it." She explained that after Becca kicked him out, Zane moved back home. His parents gave him an ultimatum: get a job and contribute to the household or leave. He threw a tantrum. They held firm for the first time in his adult life, and now he was floundering. Jobless, broke, carless, without references, without a backup plan, or any plan at all. What struck me most wasn't the drama, it was the clarity of it all. For years I had believed, if I just worked harder, explained things better, guided him more gently, he would finally step into adulthood, finally step into our partnership. But all I had done was shield him from his own responsibilities. I had carried him so thoroughly that when I set him down, he couldn't even stand. And that wasn't love. It was caretaking. It was parenting. It was enabling dressed up as devotion. By the end of that week, the consequences of his choices had caught up completely. No job, no car, no license, court fees piling up, no phones he could activate on his own, no friends willing to support him nonstop, no financial safety net, no emotional safety net, no partner to rescue him anymore. Everything he had always depended on was gone. And the woman he once called convenient, she was the only person who wasn't scrambling to save him. Because I had finally realized something. It wasn't my job to stop him from falling. It had never been my job. The fall was his, and he needed it. For almost a month, everything was quiet. Not peaceful exactly, just eerily still, like the air right before a storm breaks. Zane stopped texting, stopped calling, stopped attempting dramatic confrontations outside my workplace. Becca no longer posted angry, indirect quotes about fake people. Mutual friends stopped reaching out with panicked updates about his latest meltdown. It was as though the universe had collectively inhaled and held its breath. Part of me wondered if he'd finally accepted the reality he'd created. Another part feared what new disaster was brewing beneath the silence. But mostly I used the quiet to focus on rebuilding myself. For the first time in 4 years, my life was my own. My evenings weren't spent cleaning up after him or organizing his tasks. My mornings weren't spent reminding him of basic responsibilities. I slept better, ate better, worked better. My thoughts didn't feel cluttered. It was a strange, steady kind of healing. Then, one afternoon, while I was at the grocery store comparing 2 brands of olive oil, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Hey, this is Zane. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a long moment, surrounded by the hum of shopping carts and the soft rustling of produce bags. I could have ignored it. I almost did, but a part of me, curiosity, maybe closure, won out. "What do you want?" I replied. A few minutes later, he answered, "I want to apologize and maybe explain some things. Could we meet just coffee? Public place." I hesitated. Meeting him in person felt risky, but I also sensed something different in the tone, less accusatory, less entitled, more subdued. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a Starbucks downtown. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a small table in the corner near the window. When he looked up, I almost didn't recognize him. His hair was uncombed, his hoodie worn thin shadows under his eyes deep enough to tell their own story. The Zane who strutted out of my apartment announcing his independence was long gone. "Hey," he said softly as I sat down. "You have 10 minutes, I answered. "Fair." For a moment, he seemed unsure of where to begin. His hands shook slightly as he held his coffee cup. Finally, he exhaled, the breath shaky. "I've learned a lot these past few months. Such as I asked. That I don't know how to be an adult." He said it without defensiveness, without the forced laugh he usually used to mask insecurity. Like, at all. I didn't respond. I wanted him to say the words himself. He swallowed. "Did you know I didn't even know how to write a check, like physically write one? I had to YouTube it. I'm 28 years old." I raised an eyebrow, but remained quiet. He continued. "I didn't know how to set up my own insurance account. I didn't know how to check my credit score. I didn't know how registration worked for my car. I didn't even know how to schedule a doctor's appointment without you telling me what to say." The list went on. Every sentence was another stone of realization dropping heavily between us. He talked about court-mandated therapy after his arrest, about having to admit out loud, in front of a professional, that he didn't know basic life skills. His therapist had him write down every single thing I used to do for him. "Luciana," he said quietly, the list was 3 pages long. Single-spaced. He let the words hang between us. "I didn't even know our address for the first 2 years," he muttered, voice cracking. "Not the full address. I had to look at mail." "That's surprising," I said, though it wasn't. "No, it's pathetic," he corrected. "And it wasn't cute or quirky like I thought it was. I used to act like being bad at adulting was a personality trait. Like it made me, I don't know, harmless, endearing, but it just made me irresponsible." His voice lowered. When the judge asked if I had support at home, I had to say no, because I realized the support I depended on wasn't mine anymore. For the first time since we broke up, I saw genuine remorse instead of reactive guilt. "I'm not trying to get you back," he said quickly. "I know that ship sailed. I just needed to say, I get it now. What you dealt with, what I put you through, and I'm sorry." I exhaled slowly, absorbing his words. "What exactly are you sorry for?" "For treating you like staff instead of a partner," he said without hesitation. "For leaving everything to you and thinking it was your job. For calling you convenient. For not listening. For not growing. For a lot." He rubbed his palms on his jeans. "My therapist made me write down all the ways I depended on you. It was humiliating. I didn't know how to do laundry. I didn't know how to cook anything that wasn't frozen. I didn't even know how to budget. Everything. Everything I expected you to do. I nodded slowly. Why are you telling me this? Because I needed you to know I'm actually trying now, he said. I'm working 2 jobs. Retail during the day, waitressing at night. I'm living with my parents but paying rent. I'm taking financial literacy classes at the community center. I bought a planner. He gave a short, embarrassed laugh. And a spreadsheet. For bills. I thought of you when I made it. Despite myself, I almost smiled. Almost. He continued, I'm not here to ask for anything. I wanted you to know that I finally see the difference between love and dependence, between being cared for and being coddled. And I know now how unfair I was to you. We sat in silence for a few seconds. The coffee machine hissed in the background. A teenager beside us laughed loudly at something on her phone. Life moved around us, indifferent to the small reckoning unfolding at our table. Can I ask you something? He said quietly. Depends. Why did you stay so long if I was that bad? The question stung more than I expected. I looked down at my hands before answering. Because I loved you, and I kept hoping you'd want to be a partner instead of a dependent. I thought if I was patient enough, supportive enough, organized enough, you'd eventually learn. But I wasn't helping you grow. I was just preventing you from failing. He nodded, tears pooling but not falling. I thought relationships were supposed to be like someone taking care of you, like a parent. I didn't realize how sick that was. The honesty was unsettling. For a moment, I saw the boy he still was buried deep beneath the man he pretended to be. We stood up to leave. As I turned, he spoke again. For what it's worth, he said softly, you weren't just convenient. I was just too immature to know the difference between love and dependence. And now, his voice wavered, now I have to live with that. I met his eyes. There was no anger left inside me, no bitterness, just a tired sort of understanding. Good luck, Zane, I said. I walked away, the cool air brushing against my skin as I stepped outside. For the first time in years, I felt truly, completely unburdened. Not because he had apologized, but because I knew finally that I didn't owe his growth to him. And maybe the best revenge, the most poetic ending, wasn't watching him break down.